Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Folks, we are entering the final wave of the market cycle. This is the final wave, and if you're an XRP holder, this will be the life-changing part of the market cycle, as long as you're sufficiently positioned, let's say. I'm going to share with you some incredible real-world data here showing the degree to which XRP is getting adopted, it's getting interest, and in fact, interest right now, recently, it's actually been above, by one key metric, it's been above Bitcoin. I kid you not. Which is quite the feat, because Bitcoin's the coin with the brand cachet, if you will. That's the one that's well known the world over, and when stuff starts getting crazy, that's the one people are looking at. But recently, XRP eclipsed it. I kid you not. Also, I want to run through a few key parts of a new newsletter from Crypto Insight UK. You should read the whole thing. It's a fantastic. He consistently does a great job. But there are just a few, maybe 2 or 3 key parts that I wanted to run through, specifically pertaining to XRP as well. But buckle up, I got some good stuff for you here. If you weren't bullish enough, you're going to be after this video. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so take a look at this headline from Cointelegraph. This is from a few days ago. Retail waking up, ? Which is why my voice is doing this with this inflection point question. Coinbase rockets to rank 137 in App Store. My friends, this right here is one of the indicators that tells us, from a historical perspective, we are at the tail end of the market cycle. We are getting there. Now, I'm not saying that there's indicators indicating that, oh my God, if we don't abandon ship soon, we are going to risk, net worth, crypto plummeting 80% imminently. I'm not saying that. But this is one of the things that does happen at the tail end of the market cycle. So take a look at this. Coinbase has climbed to rank 137 in the US Apple App Store in a sign that often heralds retail interest in crypto. However, the crypto industry is still divided on whether retail investors have truly returned. And folks, I'm not claiming that we're at peak, the peak of retail coming back. What I am arguing is that we're getting closer, and you should pay attention to this. And I will highlight, as this metric, I consider it a metric, as this continues to shift and go in the direction that you'd hope that it would, I will continue to update you on this. This is good. So anyway, check this out. Sensor Tower data shows that Coinbase has jumped 65% in the US Apple App Store rankings over the past month, rising from 386 to 137, as Bitcoin surged 10% during the same period. So think about that. From 386 to 137. Why are people downloading the Coinbase app? Because retail is coming back and interest is being generated. As I always say, the typical lemming retail speculators, they don't have any interest in buying coins when they're cheap. Not Bitcoin, not Ethereum, not XRP. Nope, 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 and nope. They didn't want XRP when it was below 50 cents. Of course not. But now that XRP is in all-time high territories, you better believe interest is picking up, as I will prove to you in this video. I got some interesting data points for you. But it's just going to get more bananas. It's going to get even more crazy right here, I'm telling you. And then they're right here, Cointelegraph reported in September 2024 that Coinbase app downloads typically correlate with price performance. Previous peaks of bull market saw Coinbase enter the top 175 of apps, while a place below 500 typically corresponded to bear markets. So folks, this is peak bull market stuff that's happening here. Now take a look at XRP specifically. This is a chart showing the number of new accounts created on the XRP ledger. And so for most of the last half year, you can see on any given day, and it varies a little bit, of course, maybe about 3,000 accounts to 4,000 accounts created on any given day. Could be higher, could be lower, but that's about right. And by the way, I'll mention that that's about 4 times higher than what it was just a year prior. Because it was normal for us to have closer to like 1,000 new accounts on any given day about a year prior. But here you can see, like, even if you go to like July of last year, it's it's bouncing around. There's some of this is like, yeah, that's about right. It could be a little higher, a little lower. So then it was quadruple that even during the boring period, if you will, over the last half year, still quadrupled. And now as XRP has been lightened back up, number of new accounts increased. In fact, you can see here just the other day, 10,279 accounts created. Look at how it's been trending up. Look at that. 5,000, 6,000, 8,000 new accounts, 10,000 new accounts in a single day. Now, we are not at peak euphoria. In fact, you can see here, On December 2nd, there were over 30,000 new accounts created. And there was a bit more retail excitement at that point. Obviously, it wasn't the peak of the cycle, but there was more interest then. And XRP had climbed on that date to $2.90. Just wait. You wait till peak mania. You're going to be seeing candles like this, or not candles, well, data points. Reaching up that high or higher. Do not be surprised when that comes to pass. But look at this. Obviously, XRP is alive and well. Look at this strength. And there's so much interest. That these are people creating their own new accounts. Sudden surge. And again, they didn't want it when it was cheaper. When XRP was just about $2, they didn't even want it then. Not literally nobody. The institutions and smart money, they were positioning themselves. But in terms of the retail coming back in, no. Now they're coming back in now that it costs more. They didn't want it when it was cheap. Isn't that funny? Stocks and crypto, the only two things that nobody wants more of when they go on sale. Like, it's hilarious, but that's just, hey, human psychology. Here's the XRP rich list, and they track the number of XRP wallets. We just broke 6.7 million just the other day. 6,721,314 accounts now. When I jumped into crypto in late 2017, or 19-dickety-2, that's what it feels like, there were less than 700,000 XRP accounts. And then, from the middle of December till 2.5 weeks later, roughly, when XRP hit its all-time high then of $3.35, from that point, when there was middle of December to the peak, we went from less than 700,000 accounts to a little over 1 million in 2.5 weeks. So what I'm telling you is, the mania, it's going to be way more mania-ish than 2017, and there's just going to be a boatload of people plowing in. So congratulations to you if you found out about XRP before the masses. Because even now, I'd still argue that in the scheme of things, it's early. I mean, because somebody 20 years from now will look back and be like, oh my God, you knew about XRP back when it was only like $3.50, when it was $3.50. Did you buy XRP when it was only $3.50? Oh my God. The same way that when I jumped into crypto in 2017, I was talking to people. I was like, wait a minute. So you've been here since like 2013, 2014? You bought XRP for half a penny? I met tons of those people back in the day. Yes, it'll be the same thing. It'll be the same type of thing here. You're still early in the scheme of things. Oh, it's completely ridiculous. And then look at this headline. XRP Google search trend exploding. What's happening? Well, you know what? Let's look at XRP specifically. Here we go. XRP search terms compared to Bitcoin over the last 90 days. And it's mostly normal. You'd expect Bitcoin to be higher because it's the one that people know about. So when there's excitement in the market, Bitcoin gets discussed more. People Google it. But look at XRP. Still, it was kind of mirroring it for a lot of it anyway. There's a certain correlation. That's what I'm saying. But look at this. Look what happened in recent times. XRP got more attention on a global scale. This is worldwide searches. XRP beat Bitcoin. That's right. XRP beat Bitcoin in this metric. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to stay beat in perpetuity. I'm not arguing that, nor would I expect that. But the fact it's got that kind of strength, does that not tell you something? Again, nobody wanted XRP when it was cheap, but now they do. Here we have a Crypto Insight UK's latest newsletter. Published it just the other day. XRP reaches all-time highs. What's next? He does a great job. Check this out. So he cites here in the opening that XRP hit the new all-time high. Let me jump down a little bit here. So he's questioning what's next. As you know, we've previously compared our current position to where we were back in November. The structure of Bitcoin creating a range after breaking its highs now mirrors what we saw then. I also suggested that the move to the upside may be more explosive this time, as liquidity to the upside is deeper than it was in November. I'll just pause and note, yes, historically, you don't need to be a chart guy to know this. Historically, that is true. Certainly for XRP. The last pump, that is where the deepest liquidity and most mania comes from. And I'm telling you, the second pump for XRP specifically, when that happens, in terms of United States dollars, it's way more substantial than the first pump. Way, way, way more. It's not even close, in fact. So for those that have been holding from way back in the day, yeah, your net worth is a lot higher, but it's about to be dwarfed compared to what's already happened by the next pump. If history is to rhyme with itself, of course. Anyway, he continues. While we haven't seen significant velocity in this move, we've successfully cracked and held above all-time highs. With that in mind, I believe we are currently positioned in the circle. There's potential for another 42% upside, which could push Bitcoin towards $170,000. And so when he says the circle, he's talking about this right here. So here it was back in November. All right. Let me jump down a little bit. First off, let's take a look at Bitcoin dominance. So far, it seems like alt season is starting exactly where we predicted based on the liquidity pool above and Bitcoin dominance. I mentioned before that I thought alt season would begin from the previous alt season box, and while we didn't quite make it on the first push and subsequent pullback, we had a secondary blow-off top. Now it seems to be confirming that this was the top, especially with significant volume coming in on this weekly candle. Right. So what you need to know is that as the price of Bitcoin goes up on its last parabolic rally at the end of the market cycle, historically what happens is Bitcoin dominance decreases, which means that it encompasses an increasingly smaller percentage of the overall market. Why? Because altcoins are dominating. That's exactly what happens. So Bitcoin price can go up, but Bitcoin dominance goes down, and the dominance of XRP and other altcoins, it increases. Now, the dominance right now, I didn't look right before recording this, but when I did yesterday, I think it's about the same right now. Bitcoin dominance was close to 61%, but X number of days prior, not long before that, Bitcoin dominance was at 66%. So it's already sliding from 66%, call it to close to 61%, a 5-point dive. That is what you should expect at the end of a market cycle, that type of behavior, as long as it persists, and it does seem to be persisting to this point. Now, that doesn't mean that we're at the very end. Like, we don't have to be panicking right now. I will tell you when I'd be panicking if I hadn't sold, because at a certain point, like, we're going to get there, and I will tell you. I personally don't think we're even close to it. Not percentage-wise, anyway. Because Bitcoin dominance can get much lower. Like in 2017, it got down to like 35, 39%, something like that. And so we're just not there yet. We're just not. But it's doing what you would hope and expect it to, because as this happens, that means it's time for alt season, and alts have been picking up here. Don't you see how history just keeps doing the same thing over and over again, roughly? It just kind of rhymes with itself. It's amazing. It just keeps happening. And so then he says, of course, there are still 2 days and 12 hours left in the candle, so nothing is confirmed as of now. But think about the potential magnitude of moves that could happen for altcoins. Just look at XRP's previous move from 55 cents to $2.70, which happened during the circled XRP's move. And I'll make this full screen for just a moment. He's referencing this. So this is the end of 2024, and you could see Bitcoin dominance came down. That's when XRP was lighting up the world and just completely dominating Bitcoin's little bitch ass. That's the same period of time, right? And then after XRP had a little bit of a cool off, and it did for half a year, you can see that Bitcoin picked up a little bit of dominance, and then it just kept increasing. That's not purely because of XRP, but I'm just saying it lines up. Like, XRP had a big impact on this, very obviously. And so that's what he was referencing right here. Then he continues, as for Bitcoin dominance, I believe it will set a lower low this cycle. My projection is that it could drop to at least 35%. Okay, and that would be historically normal. I don't remember what it was last cycle at its lowest, but the cycle before that, 2017, I believe it was close to 35%. So you can just Google, if you want the exact number, just Google it, but that's about right. And then we have this, Bitcoin dominance / XRP, a chart no one is talking about. And that's true. I haven't seen anyone point this out. This is interesting. Check this out. I made an interesting comparison on YouTube suggesting that if you invert XRP's price against the dollar, it might forecast the future of Bitcoin dominance. What we can observe is that these two charts mirror each other quite closely when inverted. This correlation is logical because as Bitcoin loses dominance, capital tends to flow into larger altcoins, with XRP being one of the key beneficiaries. However, what I don't think has been pointed out before is that XRP's price might actually be leading Bitcoin dominance. If this is the case, it would suggest that Bitcoin dominance could dip below its local lows, which have been around 34%. Okay, so here you can see what he's talking about. The XRP chart is on top. Here you can see that it's been sliding down against the dollar, or so it would seem, but that's because the chart is inverted, which means the lower this chart goes, the higher the price of XRP. Then the bottom chart here, that's the market cap Bitcoin dominance percentage. And so what he's showing is that there's a strong correlation here. And I haven't seen anyone point this out, actually. This is new, but I find it fascinating. So he's saying here that XRP is kind of leading it. Look at that. So if this keeps playing out this way, I mean, that would obviously be true, and one would think Bitcoin dominance would keep going down. So there actually could be very well be something to this. But look at it. This is just, so anyway, that's the point that he was making right here, and I find that fascinating. And then he says, if XRP continues into price discovery, which I strongly believe it will, it could see substantial gains and shock a lot of people. This would, in turn, correlate with a further depreciation of Bitcoin dominance. The structure of these two charts is undeniable, and I'm excited to see how this plays out. Yeah, Won't be surprised to see that. So XRP dominance, last I looked, it was at like 5.5% after being as low recently as a little under 4%. So already going the right way. Lots of analysts, and I don't know if this is conservative or not, but a lot of analysts think that XRP dominance is going to get closer to 15%, and some think higher, maybe 20%. But if it gets to 15%, you're already talking about from here a threefold increase, which would safely put XRP over $10. But the exciting thing, and I've been mentioning this in recent videos, the exciting thing is that's at the current total market cap of $3.8 trillion. If the market cap for the asset class doubles and everything, like the whole asset class is worth about double what it is, which could happen, that would be within the realm of what's reasonable to speculate about. Because, you know, bubbles inflate, you get mania at the end of the cycle, which is where we're getting close to. It can happen very fast. So say it does double. I don't know if it'll happen, but say it does. Well, then, you know, that 15%, it wouldn't put XRP at $10. It would be worth twice that. So then XRP would be closer to like 21 bucks, you know, about twice that. So it can get up there very quickly if the market goes nuts, and if it gets to 15%, and if this chart's really breaking out, well then holy freaking hell. It's about to get ridiculous to a degree that most people just aren't prepared for and haven't even considered. That's what I'm here for, and there's a real good chance that's actually about what's going to happen. So folks, this is the final wave. It's at hand. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.